What if I told you that the thing you do every single day, something you do out of pure love, is slowly breaking your dog's mind? Not in a dramatic, obvious way, but in a quiet, invisible way that builds up over months. And by the time you notice the signs, the damage is already deep. Your dog is anxious. Maybe you already know this. Maybe you've seen it. The pacing, the whining, the way they fall apart the second you walk out the door. But here's the part that's going to make you uncomfortable. The anxiety didn't come from nowhere. It came from you. Now, before you close this video, just give me 2 minutes. Because what I'm about to share with you changes everything about how you understand your dog. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let's start with a story. A woman named Sarah had a golden retriever named Buddy. And Buddy was, by all accounts, a perfectly loved dog. He slept in her bed. He went everywhere with her. She talked to him like a best friend. She bought him the best food, the best toys. She felt guilty leaving him alone, so she shortened her work trips. She came home early from dinners. She texted her neighbor to check on him. She loved Buddy with every part of her heart, and Buddy was a complete wreck. He chewed through 3 couches. He barked so much the neighbors filed a complaint. He had stress-induced digestive problems. He bit a vet tech during a routine checkup, and Sarah could not understand why. Because she had done everything right, or at least she thought she had. This is the story of millions of dog owners around the world. And the painful truth at the center of it is something most people are not ready to hear. The love you give your dog and the damage you cause your dog can come from the exact same place. Now, I want you to understand something before we go deeper. I am not here to make you feel like a bad owner. I am here to show you something that dog psychology has been quietly revealing for years, something that is finally starting to get the attention it deserves. Because once you understand how a dog's brain actually works, once you understand what your dog is really experiencing when you leave, when you come home, when you hold them tight because you feel sad, everything changes. The way you see your dog. The way your dog sees the world. And most importantly, the way your dog feels inside their own body. So let's talk about what anxiety actually is in a dog. Not the human version. Not the version where you're overthinking your future or worrying about bills. Dog anxiety is something older, something more primitive. It lives in the part of the brain that is wired for survival. For a dog, the world is a place of signals. Every sound, every smell, every shift in your body language is information. Dogs are reading you constantly. And I mean constantly. They notice when your shoulders tense before you leave. They notice the difference between your Tuesday shoes and your Sunday shoes. They know the sound of your keys versus the sound of your wallet. They are, in the most literal sense, professional observers of human behavior. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because your dog is not just watching you. Your dog is taking emotional cues from you. This is called emotional contagion, and it is one of the most powerful and least talked about forces in the relationship between dogs and their owners. When you are anxious, your dog becomes anxious. When you are calm, your dog can be calm. When you feel guilty about leaving, your dog feels the tension in that guilt before you even touch the door handle. They feel it in how you move. They feel it in the energy you carry. And they respond to it not with logic, but with raw instinct. Something is wrong. Something is dangerous. I must be alert. Now here is where it gets really interesting and really uncomfortable. Most owners who have anxious dogs are themselves unknowingly anxious people, or at the very least, they are anxious around their dog. They worry constantly about whether their dog is okay. They feel guilty for normal things like going to work. They treat their dog's discomfort as a crisis. And every time they do this, they are sending a message to their dog's nervous system. This world is not safe. You should be afraid. I am afraid too. And the dog, who looks to you as the one stable force in their entire universe, receives this message and stores it deep. But that is not the real reason why so many dogs end up in a state of chronic anxiety. The real reason goes even deeper. And most dog owners will never figure it out because it is hidden behind something that looks completely harmless, something that actually looks like love. Dogs are not humans. I know that sounds obvious, but the way most people treat their dogs suggests they have forgotten this at a fundamental level. We project human emotional needs onto animals who have an entirely different psychology, and in doing so, we accidentally create a life for them. That is deeply confusing and deeply stressful. Here's a simple example. When a human child is scared, you hold them, you hug them. You reassure them with words and warmth. And it works because humans are wired to receive comfort that way. But when a dog is scared and you rush over, crouch down and hold them tight while speaking in a high-pitched, worried voice, you are not comforting them. You are confirming their fear. You are telling them, in dog language, yes, this is something to be afraid of. I am afraid too. Your reaction just validated everything their nervous system was. This is one of the biggest and most common mistakes dog owners make. And it comes entirely from love. The instinct to soothe, to comfort, to protect. But the language you are using to express that love is not the language your dog understands. And the gap between what you mean and what your dog hears is where anxiety is born and where it grows. Let's go back to Sarah and Buddy for a moment, because there's something specific that Sarah did that I want you to think about. Every morning before she left for work, Sarah would spend about 10 minutes saying goodbye to Buddy. She would kneel down, look into his eyes, and say things like, "Mommy's so sorry she has to leave. You're going to be okay, baby. I'll be back soon. I promise." And Buddy would look at her with those big, soft eyes, and she would feel her heart break a little every single time. And then she would leave, feeling guilty. And Buddy would spend the next 8 hours in a state of heightened stress. Not because she left, but because of what happened before she left. The long, emotional, anxious goodbye had already primed his nervous system for panic. She had spent 10 minutes sending signals of sadness and worry right before the moment of separation. And his brain, being the incredible signal-reading machine that it is, connected those signals to the departure. Departure equals emotional chaos. Every single day. What most dog owners don't realize is that the goodbye is often more damaging than the absence itself. Now let's talk about something called secure attachment versus anxious attachment, because this concept, which was originally developed to describe human relationships, applies almost perfectly to the bond between dogs and their owners. Secure attachment is when a dog trusts that their owner will return. They may not love being alone, but they have an internal sense of safety. They can self-soothe. They can settle. Because their entire history with their owner has taught them that separation is temporary and not catastrophic. Anxious attachment is the opposite. It is when a dog has learned, through experience and emotional conditioning, that separation is a crisis, that the world without their owner present is unpredictable and unsafe. And here is the brutal irony. The dogs who are most likely to develop anxious attachment are the ones who have been the most loved in the most intense, all-consuming human way. The dogs who go everywhere with their owner, the dogs who are never left alone as puppies, the dogs who sleep in bed, eat from their owner's hand, get picked up whenever they look uncomfortable. These dogs, through no fault of their own, have never developed the emotional muscle to tolerate independence. They have been loved into fragility, and this is where things get dangerous. Because an anxious dog is not just an unhappy dog. An anxious dog is a dog who is living in a chronic state of physiological stress. And chronic stress has real physical consequences. It weakens the immune system. It disrupts digestion. It causes behavioral issues that can escalate into aggression. It shortens lifespan. The dog who shakes when thunder hits. The dog who destroys furniture in your absence. The dog who cannot relax even in perfectly safe environments. That dog is suffering, not occasionally, all the time. And the owner, pouring love into that dog every single day, often has no idea, because the love looks like love. But the effect of that love, delivered without understanding of dog psychology, is suffering. So what do you actually do about this? How do you love your dog in a way that heals instead of harms? Here is where I need you to really pay attention, because what I'm about to describe is counterintuitive. It will feel wrong at first. It might even make you feel like a bad owner. But stay with me. The first thing you need to understand is that calm is a language. When your dog is anxious, the most powerful thing you can do is not to rush to them, not to soothe them with words, but to model calm, to sit, to breathe, to move slowly and with ease, to project through your entire body the message that this situation is not a crisis. You are the pack leader, not in the dominance and punishment sense, but in the emotional regulation sense. You set the emotional temperature of the room. And your dog reads that temperature constantly. So when you stay calm, you are not being cold or uncaring. You are giving your dog the most profound gift you can give them, the felt sense of safety. This takes practice, especially if you are an emotional person, especially if seeing your dog in distress immediately activates your own anxiety. But it is the most important skill you can build if you want your dog to feel genuinely safe. The second thing is about independence. You need to start building your dog's tolerance for being alone, not as a punishment, but as a normal, neutral part of life. This means short, calm departures. No long goodbyes, no dramatic hellos either. When you leave like it's nothing. Because to a dog, your energy tells them what to expect. If you leave with calm ease, the departure starts to feel neutral. If you leave with guilt, an apology, and emotional weight, the departure becomes a signal of crisis. When you return, you do not immediately rush to your dog and match their frantic excitement. You come in, you settle yourself first, and then when your dog is calm, you greet them warmly. This is not cruel. This is teaching them that your comings and goings are not emotionally extreme events, and over time their nervous system learns to stop treating them as such. The third thing is about giving your dog a job. This might sound strange, but dogs are working animals. They were bred for purpose, and a dog without purpose is a dog without a framework for life. This doesn't mean you need to put your Labrador to work on a farm. It means mental stimulation. Nose work, training sessions, puzzle feeders, activities that ask your dog to use their brain and their instincts. Because a dog who is mentally fulfilled is a dog who is calm. A dog who has nothing to do but monitor your emotions is a dog who will become obsessed with your emotions. Give your dog a life that is rich in sensory experience, in challenge, in accomplishment. And watch what happens to their baseline anxiety over weeks and months. Now, I want to tell you something that I've been holding back until this moment, because it is the thing that ties everything together, and it is the thing that will either make this video feel like a wake-up call or just another set of tips that you nod at and forget. The real source of dog anxiety in most homes is not the dog. It is the relationship. It is the invisible dynamic that has formed between owner and dog over months and years. A dynamic built on love, but shaped by miscommunication. The dog has learned to be the emotional center of the owner's life, and the owner has learned to make the dog the emotional center of theirs. And in that arrangement, the dog carries a weight they were never meant to carry. The weight of being your best friend, your therapist, your child, your shadow. And while dogs are extraordinary beings capable of deep loyalty and connection, they are not designed to bear that weight. They break under it, quietly, in the language of chewed furniture and sleepless nights and trembling at shadows. The most loving thing you can do for your dog is to give them back the one thing excessive attachment takes away. Freedom. The freedom to be a dog. The freedom to explore the world without looking at your face every 5 seconds for reassurance. The freedom to feel safe without you in the room. the freedom to be an animal with instincts and needs and a psychology that is beautifully different from yours. When you do that, something shifts, not just in your dog, in you. You stop relating to your dog out of guilt and anxiety. You start relating to them out of genuine understanding. And your dog, freed from the role of carrying your emotions, begins to settle, to breathe, to rest inside their own skin in a way they perhaps never have before. Sarah eventually worked with a behaviorist who helped her see all of this. It took 3 months of uncomfortable changes, 3 months of short goodbyes that felt heartless, 3 months of not rushing to Buddy when he whined, 3 months of structured walks and training games and boundaries that felt unnatural to her. And at the end of those 3 months, Buddy slept through the night for the first time in 2 years. He stopped destroying things. He greeted the vet tech with a wagging tail. He was not a different dog. He was finally himself. That is what this is about. Not about loving your dog less, but about understanding them more. About meeting them where they are instead of where we wish they were. About being for them the calm, clear, consistent presence that every single dog on this planet is silently hoping for. If this video opened something up in you, if it made you see your dog differently, even just a little, then I want you to do one thing. Not for me, for your dog. Take what you learned here and sit with it. Watch your dog today with new eyes. Notice the moments when your energy shifts and how they respond. Notice the moments when you are calm and how they settle. Start there. That awareness alone is already the beginning of something better for both of you. And if you want to keep going deeper into understanding your dog's mind, the way they think, the way they feel, the way you can truly give them the life they deserve, stick around. Because everything on this channel exists for that one purpose: to help you and your dog understand each other in ways most people never get to. Your dog has been trying to tell you something for a long time. You are just now learning how to hear it.